Well scheduled.
What's the name?
Rose.
Meeting to order for May 19th, 2025. Our first order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from the April 21st, 2025 meeting. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. All right. Taylor's out today, so welcome, Alan. Thanks for helping out today.
I'll be Taylor today.
All right, fantastic. I believe you were going to speak to kind of the transition to the
Yes.
committee later, but do you have any other things you need to or want to share?
I'll just share that you may have noticed at the last council meeting under new business, the council received updates to the town's code of ordinances, which this board will now be codified into the town's code of ordinances as it relates to board structure, establishment of the duties, etc. That will be on consent at the next council meeting, as well as the resident advisory board policy, which covers like attendance, diversity standards, membership, term lengths, those kinds of things in the policy, which is easier to update than a full code codification. So that's really my updates as it relates to all advisory boards, and then I'll speak more specifically related to arts and culture later.
Okay, great. Thank you. As far as chairperson's report, nothing new for me here, but I'll be talking about a number of old business items. So and now would be the time for public comment, but we'll move forward from there. All right, old business. So the mural, White Oak Creek Greenway, it's coming along terrifically. There has been a little bit of a delay in that some weather issues. Sean Kernick, the artist, also has a couple of personal matters to take care of, but he's back at it. So we're expecting that to be complete by the end of May. So hey Lafayette, welcome. So we expect that mural to be done by the end of May. Hopefully you've had a chance to go out and check it out, but if not, please feel free to do so. Any questions on that mural? All right.
Been well received so far?
Yeah. Every time I've been out there, I've seen people stopping, taking photos, doing just what you might think, and making very positive comments. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. The next order of business is Crosswalk Art. So this is on Salem Street. So the original schedule was for the presentation to go to council on May 27th, but that's been pushed out to the 24th. So Taylor will present the design concept for approval. It's part of the required steps for a permanent piece of art like that. So it has been moved back to the 24th, so the artist can't start until after that. So she'll start, let's make an assumption it's approved, kind of shortly thereafter. Now, I know there are holidays in there, 4th of July, it starts to push up the 4th of July, and a festival and all this kind of stuff. So my expectation is that that'll also impact the schedule a little bit. So maybe it's more of a mid-July type of start, but we'll see how it plays out. Okay, Alan, you have
And
a
for
comment?
those that are wondering or just curious about why it's getting pushed, there's 13 public hearings on the next council meeting, so we did not want Taylor to be here at 11 o'clock at night presenting
Public art mural?
yes, exactly. So that's one of the reasons why I asked Taylor to reconsider moving that out a little bit.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for the extra background on that one. Appreciate it. Any questions or comments on that one? Okay. Video projection projects next up. So the next steps for us, for now, the project's still going through the final stages of plan review, my understanding. So the information I got from Taylor, and which is the last step prior to construction actually beginning on site. Don't have a time frame for that yet, so we'll wait and see. But for us, the next steps would be to get a little deeper into the panel idea and the covers on the for the exterior to create some kind of artwork on the exterior perimeter of the frame that holds the structure. So we need to again take the next step. So things like what's the type and composition of panels that we want matching the design there. What type of artwork are we looking to have on there? Are we going to go to RFP? Is this going to be something that we do once and leave, or is it some kind of rotating situation? So we need to make those kind of decisions. But I think the best way to do that would be to have maybe 1 or 2 people kind of spin off and maybe talk about those concepts, and just come back to the team with a little bit of a plan. So I don't know if there's somebody that's like willing to work maybe with me on that. You know, I could speak now, or you could tell me afterwards as well.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm envisioning 4 panels, right? 4 sides.
Not sure yet. We need to.
Or 4 individual.
I know she had shown us. Taylor showed us kind of a mock-up of what the structure looks like and how many panels there may be on there, but we can determine that as part of this. Part of the project would be to figure that out. Yeah.
So my thinking, again, just top line thoughts were, is it going to be 4 different images or one contiguous image shown? His wheels are already turning. So.
Well, but that's the idea, is to determine that and have somebody come back with kind of a recommendation on the way to approach it, or maybe options, right?
Gotcha.
That we can maybe flush out and discuss. But since we talked about that idea as bringing that forward, but now maybe it's just time to take that next step and answer those kind of questions left. Yeah, good questions. Yeah.
I think the mock-ups that Taylor had were from me, right? Is that what you're referring to? Okay, yeah. So I had drawn her to some rough ideas and stuff too. So I mean, I can continue on that if you want, if that works.
Okay. Yeah. So you want to work together on it?
That's
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
Why don't we do that, and then we can take something back and float it by the team here.
Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. Okay. All right. Sounds good. And if anybody has any other ideas or thoughts, just go ahead and kind of drop them in a Slack, or you can drop us a note or an email or text, or give us a call too. Okay. Let's see, sculpture walk stuff. So we've had a couple of guided walks. One with the seniors went really well a couple of weeks ago, so that was fun, and they seem to enjoy it. There is voting that's taking place for the People's Choice Award. So if you haven't had a chance to go out there and take the walk yourself, I encourage you to do so. Bring some friends along, and encourage them to vote for the sculptures as well. So the more we get, the better representation that is of the People's Choice. Also, we pick a best in show each year. So I'll send some emails with some thoughts on the side to the team to think about how we might do that this year. And maybe as a small group or something like that goes and takes the walk, and it comes back with a recommendation to the wider group here. Okay, so we'll look for some time to do that. The People's Choice voting goes till about mid-June, so we probably would do ours after that sometime. Might be around the time of our next meeting, but maybe a little later also. It's not really a huge rush to do that, but we'll want to get that in before probably the next, if not the next meeting, the meeting after that. Have that wrapped up. Okay.
For anyone listening to the recording or public comment or anything like that, or public attending, it's on AutoCast for the voting.
Well, no,
the People's Choice, right?
The walk is on AutoCast. The voting is not. You have to be present.
Okay.
So you have to scan the QR code, and at each piece, and you rate each sculpture. So you don't just pick the one that you like the best. You rate them all on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and then if you only see 3 or 4, it's okay. Just vote for those, or rate those 3 or 4. It's okay. Yeah, cool. Good stuff. All right. The art guide. Susan's not here, so I'll do my best to just give a couple of quick updates on that. So we have Taylor's working with legal to draft a document for the private owners of this art that would be in the guide, to get like kind of a release from them to allow us to post it in the guide. So she's working with them on that. And then on kind of our side of the equation, just still amassing any artwork that people see around town. If you do find a piece, if you could take a photo, share it one way or another with the team. If you can figure out who the artist is, that's extra good, and also the location, right? Don't forget to share the location. And yeah, we've got quite a bit that's already, there's quite a number of sculptures and murals that we've identified, so it'll be a pretty robust guide.
This is gonna be all of Apex, not just downtown or anything like that, right?
Yep,
Everything, okay.
all around Apex. Okay. Anybody, anything else on that one? You okay? All right. Into new business. Okay, new business. So, Alan, on the transition to the Arts and Culture Committee or board.
Sure. So we received some feedback from council members regarding the structure of the arts and culture. I know that kind of the vision from that is to expand beyond just public art and incorporate other forms of art. So we're working from a staff perspective on a survey asking the right questions. We want to make sure that it's simple, so no more than 5 questions. But we also want to make sure that it allows you all time to give in-depth responses, as well as the council members to weigh in on the responses. What I would envision is that survey will go live in July. We'll collect feedback from council members, and there'll probably be a discussion in August, setting the framework of duties and responsibilities. Originally, the scope was to do kind of all of this at once, and it was much too broad for staff to be able to accomplish all of it at once. And so we're starting with the framework first, the administrative policy changes that were presented to you all earlier this year, and the ordinance changes. And so that's coming to council, like I mentioned earlier, in May. And then again, we'll look at duties and scope over the summer.
And who does the survey go to again, you say?
It'll go to the board members, and then it will go to council
Oh,
members.
both, okay.
So there'll be 2 different surveys. There'll be similar questions from council. They're going to be asked to prioritize. If you've done our budget survey, you'll see where you've been asked to prioritize certain things above others. That'll be similar framework for both council and board members. If there are things that you think the board has been doing that they should still focus on, then we want to know that. If there's things that with this new scope and structure that you think the board should incorporate into the new framework, then we want to know that. And then if there are things that you think the board should not be involved in, then we want to know that. The key takeaways and what we're trying to gather this month and some in June is survey data from other municipalities that have more broader scoped arts and culture committees, similar to our EAB environmental board, which collapsed several of our other environmental related initiatives. So that you all have that as samplings to be able to see what other communities are doing, or at least how their structure is set up.
Will we see any type of summary of results of either of those 2 surveys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Timing, not sure about whether they'll be presented back at a meeting or if they'll be, hey, the survey concludes July, whatever. I'm going to pick an arbitrary date, the 10th of July. Then we may send it back out and say, hey, here's the compiled summary of results. If there's any outstanding questions or lingering comments, we saw this, we're not sure who submitted this, can you clarify that? Those kinds of things. And then it'll go before council. The goal would be to present it back before each advisory board so that they kind of had a view, insight into the survey results. My concern with that is then we push things out months at a time, because we do have some boards that are still meeting quarterly. This board obviously would meet monthly, but depending on how that falls, you may miss the July meeting, which pushes us to the middle of August, which then pushes us back to September for council approval. And so we get further and further down the road of really moving this along. And I don't think that council envisioned this kind of process being a year-long effort.
And does each person individually reply to the survey?
Correct.
It's not a group thing. Yeah, okay, good.
That'll be each person here.
Yeah.
Now the readout from that, once again, is going to be analyzed along with another body. You said the council,
the mayor and council.
the mayor and the council, and then you'll just kind of do sort of a composite summary.
Correct.
We'll get the results of that
Yes.
for feedback. Is that what you
Correct. Like if there are things that we saw in the survey, and again, this is what I'm envisioning. So obviously there may be a slight tweak or two, but if there is something that, a board member placed a comment that's unclear, or that I need to get clarification on, then we may have to circle back to you and say, hey, I'm not sure what this means. You know, because some people use different lingos and different languages, and it may not be common language. Like I think you mentioned something was mentioned yesterday or something in an email, Tom, that I had no idea what that meant. So
Two more quick points.
Yeah.
So the impetus for this is driven by what? To transition to this broader committee. Where did that come from? And then the second point was, is the intent to try to mirror what similar committees are doing in other municipalities? So it's sort of a two-part question there.
Oh, no, those are great. So I think part of the focus area or part of the framework, as I understand it, is that Public Art was formed, that committee was formed as a subset of Parks and Rec. And so the desire from not only several of board members here, but also the desire from council, and then we also receive feedback from the community that they would like to see a stronger emphasis placed on art in general, and this board needing to be a standalone body.
From Parks and Rec.
From Parks and Rec, because as many of you know, there were not many recommendations that went back to Parks and Rec. You know, a lot of things Taylor would, based on the recommendation from you all, would go straight to council. So they wouldn't necessarily go back to Parks and Rec, get them to endorse it. And if they did, what was the real purpose of that? Was there any added value of them doing that? So I think from a structure, administrative standpoint, it was kind of operating as a standalone anyways, but informally. So that's one. I think two, encompassing more arts related programs. Obviously you all have done a lot with just public art, and so expanding that role I think begs the question of whether there's capacity for do anything beyond just public art, right? If there is really capacity to do more arts, culture, event, type things. And so that's why we want to survey out to see, are there things that you should be working on and things that you don't think should be worked on? And to get to your second point, I don't think there's really any end goal to mirror one particular community versus another. I think we need to do what's best, for Apex, as you all do each month. But I think it's wise to at least see what other communities are focusing on, and how they've kind of worded their structure. Some have arts commissions, some have arts councils that are in their communities, and so the municipality's arts board can focus more centrally on something when there's an arts council that covers more of a broad array of arts. But I do think there's an opportunity here to redefine what the Arts and Culture Committee works on.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Yeah, hope that helps.
Yeah, very good actually.
Stuff. Any other questions for Alan?
Is everybody okay with that plan?
Yeah.
Are there any concerns with what you've heard so far? Okay.
I didn't hear anything about the number of members, but I guess that would just vary based on what we end up doing or taking on. So
it was set to 9. So the members has been established as part of that first review was 9, 8 corporate limit resident above 18, and then 1 youth voting representative as well. And all boards, we are incorporating a youth representative, but based on, the scope of a particular board, it was determined or recommended from our legal counsel that they either be voting or non-voting. So like you'll see a youth representative on our planning board, but they will be non-voting because of the development related impacts that could lead to legal implications, and we don't want to pull a minor into those kind of conversations.
Okay.
But great question.
All right. Any other questions?
That brings up one more question for me. Will we keep a non-voting member on the council?
No.
Okay.
No. It'll be 9 voting members,
Okay.
which will change the quorum from what I think you all may have been used to. It will bump that up to 5.
Yeah. Okay.
And the youth, just to clarify, so regular terms will be for 2-year terms for a maximum of 3 consecutive terms, so 6 years. Youth terms will be for 1 year for a maximum of 2 years, because most of them will likely be in school of some sort, and so we don't want them to overcommit beyond a year.
3 consecutive terms starting when we decided to do this?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So those
And
that
this
have
board
been
is
on for
different.
a while get a bit of a reset because of that. On
Yeah,
the
and
other
this-
committees do not, right? Is that correct?
Do what?
Yeah, the other boards and committees don't if they haven't had a material change.
Correct.
Right.
So like, for example, Parks and Rec has members on there that have been on there for quite a long time. So when their term ends in June, because they have been a standalone board, their previous terms will count. And so some of them will not be eligible because they will have already met that 6-year threshold.
Okay.
This committee has been operating as a subset of Parks and Rec and not a standalone board, which is kind of a difference.
Got it, okay.
All right, lots of good stuff there. Anyone else? All right, that's the end of our listed items. Brad, I know you had recently said something. Do you mind talking about that for a second on new business, and then
Sure,
next time
absolutely.
we can speak about it maybe
Yeah.
more broadly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just for a little context, in a working session we had about 6-7 weeks ago, something that I brought up is looking into some type of artist in residence program. Not to necessarily do, but at least to research and see what other towns around us are doing, where we would sponsor somebody for a set amount of time. It could be ceramics, murals, something to come to the town with a strong engagement on, or a strong emphasis on public engagement, including something like a public lecture, workshop, public show, maybe engagement with local fairs or local festivals that we could have. I put together just kind of a brief, I'm trying to remember the towns, Athens, Charleston, and then one other town I can't remember in Georgia that have similar programs. I summarized what they're currently doing, and then put together, I'm not going to say a proposal yet, but just some ideas for what it could look like in Apex, along with some questions that I would still have we need to work out for, like funding. Is there actual studio space that could be given to somebody to help do this? What would the commitment be? All those sorts of things. But I put together a Google Doc and posted it in our Slack channel. And so I'm have it set to, anybody can go in, leave comments. I'm happy to set it to edit, where it can be a living document, but something to discuss in the future after people get time to look at it. I only posted it 2 hours ago, so it's
You're not
no-
late yet.
no rush.
All right. Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brad, for taking the initiative to do that. And so, yeah, we can just comment on there and maybe at the next meeting, summary of comments or something like that.
Absolutely.
Maybe next steps. Okay, terrific. All right, good stuff. Any other new business for today or questions from anyone?
I know it kind of taken a backseat because of just with my life going on being crazy, but the sidewalk paintings I had been working on.
Yes.
I've got some kind of finalized stuff for that, kind of based on some of the feedback you guys had given. So I can share that with you all, or if you want to just like resurface it, or if you think it's too late in the season, or
No, I don't think it's too late.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can revisit it. I mean, it's basically it's pretty similar. Just kind of added some of the color, like some of the stripes from one of the ones that was kind of basic. Added like some like the green, gold, black, and stuff like that. Just a little bit more Apex colors versus just random colors. But yeah, I can share that with everybody and just see if we can get it moving forward.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, if you can share it via Slack or however you want to do that. Once I guess everybody settles and says, yeah, let's go forward, then it would be posted for 60 days for public comment, and it would go through the same kind of process, presented at the board, et cetera, and then have to figure out the logistics of, actually making it happen, right? So yeah, I think the timing is still fine.
Okay.
We know all that stuff takes a little time,
Right.
but probably in the fall, like late fall, might be able to happen.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Thanks, Sean.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh, did you want to bring up, I don't know, did you get to go to I went to the brainstorming meeting for the new park that's going to be developed, and
Yeah,
got to see it.
I was there as well.
Yeah,
Go
I think we
ahead.
went at different times,
Yeah,
but
sure.
that was exciting to think about. I don't know what the construction timeline on that new park. Remind me of the name of the park.
It's West Street Park.
West Street Park.
Yeah.
It just crossed my mind that I went to that and got to excited about that. But is that something we need to be planning for budget wise, or will that be attached to like?
My understanding is it's included in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah, from the very early days of that project, we worked with them on making sure that public art was incorporated into the project plan. It's great to see it's made it to this part in the stage of the project, but it's good for us to keep an eye on that. And it's a really good question. So
So there's
it's
no
probably
next steps
worth
for
a
us, just-
follow-up.
okay.
It is worth a follow-up to make sure from a budget perspective. It would be more at the tail end of that project, so we're fine for next year, because there's no way it would happen
Yeah,
next year
yeah.
anyway. But it's something that we would have to keep in mind and maybe put in our budget for 27, I suppose, depending on
Hard to
the
believe.
timing.
I know.
But it'll happen, it'll come, right? But it is a good question. I'll follow up with Angela to see if there's if it would be included in the budget. I believe the answer is yes, but
Okay.
I can follow.
Because there was two main different designs. So that
Yeah.
one looked a little bit larger mural, and I was like, well, maybe this one would be good because of the larger mural possibility, but also just the ramifications of budget when that
No,
larger
good-
mural
good
happens.
question. It looks like a really,
Yeah,
Really
I was
hard.
excited about seeing that.
yeah, so it's really nice. So hopefully that'll
Yeah.
come together.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and for what it's worth, we did some research, and so the park was originally constructed in 1978, 1979 time period, and it was not called West Street Park. It was called the Mini Park of Apex.
Ah,
Park.
And so it was referred to in all the minutes and the construction documents as the Mini Park.
The mini park.
Nice.
Well, I was just excited. I was very happy to see public art.
Yeah.
It was already made it onto that list of things that were happening there.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Out of curiosity, when you say like it was known as mini park, and you're looking at old construction documents, how do you go about doing that research for the town for that historical information?
Alan has all the things.
I'm sorry, that's a very. I was thinking about some potential like art projects relying on history of the town, and just thought, oh, I wonder how to access that sort of data.
Yeah, it's through a compilation of a lot of things,
Okay.
but yeah, we typically have in this particular case, we had it noted in the minutes as
okay.
part of a construction award, but also we didn't have the official date of when it opened, but we had at least a lot of references to how they secured funding. Most of the funding for the construction of that park actually came from the county, was not the town. So it was the county's recreational efforts to get out more into local municipalities. So we do a variety of research pretty often.
All right. Any other new business? Welcome you. Hello. All right, then motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.